Welcome to Up for Discussion, the show where we're always setting the world to rights. It's our debut show and we've got some great stuff lined up for you. I, Piers Connolly, will be joined by Birmingham's hottest acting sensation, the wonderful Hugo von Fragstein. With me for the duration of the show today, Hugo and I will be reviewing the life of controversial Cuban leader Fidel Castro.
Oh, goodbye. He's dead. Finally.
As well as the recent surge in sex abuse allegations in football.
I think if anybody does anything wrong, they must apologise for it.
To round your show off this week, we'll be putting Insomnia and Insanity under the microscope after Kanye West's recent stint in hospital. With a string of high-profile stars accused of insanity, is it possible to say the two phenomena can be linked?
David Bowie would have survived if he'd just gone to bed an hour early.
Stay tuned for our latest dose of light entertainment and current affairs news. So, welcome to the show, Hugo. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
Feeling good to be on the sofa?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm
enough
tired.
Space?
Tired. Yeah, there's enough space.
Oh. Hey,
Oh,
this is PG, my friend. This
yeah,
is PG.
no, I'm sorry.
No, I'm joking.
Doesn't say here. No.
No, did I not put that on the notes? Okay. Top of the show this week, we've got Cuba.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about Fidel Castro?
Oh, goodbye. He's dead. Finally. I'm very happy he's gone. I think if you call...
Controversial opinion. Controversial opinion.
I don't think it's controversial. It's just a different opinion. Maybe to some other people I've listened to. But if you're going to call anybody a dictator, you got to first... You either call them a dictator in joke, and then the meaning, the actual word loses all meaning. You either call them a dictator as a joke, and then the word...
Dictator or nationalist hero.
Well, that's a perspective. That's a different perspective. If he kills people and dictates the movement of the people that are subjective to him, then he's dictating. Then he's a dictator. And if you are a dictator...
So you wouldn't agree with the likes of the Canadian Prime Minister, the Irish President, Jeremy Corbyn, who've all come out this week with overwhelming amounts of praise for the departed Cuban leader?
My opinions of Jeremy Corbyn are absolutely different. I think his views are very important and intelligent.
His views on Castro?
I disagree with him. I don't want to link any of those figures. I don't want to be misconstrued as saying, well, I disagree with them, so therefore I'm against them and I'm branding them as dictators. No, I respect their opinion. I believe that if you are going to call somebody a dictator and accept that he murdered thousands of people that disagreed with his way of running a country, he did that. Yeah, he did a great health service, and there are many things.
But I mean, one of the questions this week is, how great was the health service? I mean, Michael D. Higgins, the Irish president, said it was a world-class health service. But information out of Havana suggests that doctors are moonlighting as tourist guides, and they're earning more money as tourist guides than the Irish doctors.
Well, how many?
Which is shameful, is it not, for a world-class health service?
It's absolutely ridiculous, and I think you're going to get speculation when you close off a country, when you close up its borders and seal it off and say goodbye to the outside world. You're always going to receive speculation on what's going on. North Korea, for instance, we always don't know exactly what's going on, and I think it's difficult to know exactly what happened in Cuba because so many of the communication links were cut. I think what we do know and what the facts told me what's going on is that how many worldwide national health services are there in the world? We've got one. Yeah. Japan's got one. Cuba's got one. And America's trying to get one.
So you think Cuba should have...
So I think, okay, if you come third out of three, then yeah, you come third, you win bronze.
So you think Cuba deserves a lot of respect for having a national health service that delivers, a decent service to Cubans at the point of demand?
Have I been there? I don't know. I haven't broken my leg on a ski trip there or anything. I haven't.
Ski trip in Cuba?
All right.
Come on.
Chilling on the beach. I haven't done anything. I haven't been able to visit there, unfortunately. But my friends who have loved it there.
What about the direction of travel in Cuba going forward? I mean, where's Cuba heading now, post Castro? I mean, where's the socialist world heading now, post Castro? Communism is on its knees. Some would say. Well, Vietnam's moved away from...
When wasn't it on its knees? I mean, communism came out as, we're on our knees, guys.
50s and 60s.
No.
That was the heyday.
No, I think communism...
North Korea is the only true communist state left now, is it not? Vietnam and China have moved towards, capitalist, market-dominated societies. Cuba was probably the only state along with North Korea. I mean, some people may be able to...
I think
pinch other states out of thin air, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Cuba and North Korea were the only true bullocks of
Yeah, and arguably
communist domination.
Cuba's always been advertised as the successful communism.
Yeah.
So
does it move in a capitalist direction now, or
no?
Does it remain?
I think we're
under the thumb of the Castro family.
I think we're becoming, especially with this populist movement, we're moving into a combination of capitalism and communism, into liberal individualism, actually.
So you think it will move in a liberal, neoliberal?
Absolutely. I think with
direction under the auspices of American influence.
With the kind of failing of oligarchies, it seems, with the ending of that, and in some ways the beginning of it with Trump, I think it's much more down to the individual, sort of that liberal communism. I think that people are always on their knees, and you're always going to suffer.
So for you, communism is dead.
Yeah.
Cuba is moving in a neoliberal direction, and Castro has no legacy.
I think Castro will always have a legacy, whether it's good or bad. It is down to the perspective of the individual looking at it.
What is the legacy?
Fewer.
People will always have memories of Castro overthrowing Batista. People will always have memories of Castro getting rid of. I think what he would suggest to political infiltrators. They're not my words. People who he would suggest were trying to undermine his regime. But does he have a legacy in terms of Cuba going forward? A global legacy in terms of inspiring social revolution, or is that?
I think his legacy is that if you isolate a country, it will develop differently from everyone else. Okay. And I think it's what's important. And I think staying connected in this modern world is more important. I think communication is important. And I think less suppressive societies and dictatorships will succeed and exist if there is more communication. Okay. So I think his legacy is.
Well, speaking of communication this week, as we move on from Castro, absolutely huge figure in world affairs that he is, I think we need to move on to the sex abuse allegations in football, which have been brought up in the media this week. How do you feel, Hugo, about the revelations? I mean, is it a surprise given what's happened over the recent years with Jimmy Savile and the like, or is this?
It's scary, but it's not.
Is this people seeking money from something that happened in a small number of places and with very little evidence? I mean, what do you make of this?
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised, because lately, past 10 years, the world's completely changed. And increased communication has meant that there may be people who were previously victims because they were being assaulted and abused by people who were breaking a law at that time. Yeah. It's a different affair when you start bringing in exact and what law is being broken. But I think.
We must point out to people viewing that one person, the former Chelsea chief scout Barry Bennell, has already been convicted of child sex offences and has been hospitalised this week.
Absolutely.
After revelations have come out regarding a series of sex abuse scandals across the country.
He doesn't seem to be taking that too well.
No. Is that indicative of his hospitalisation? Is that indicative of his own guilt and the guilt that others who have yet to be revealed may feel across?
I'm not in the jury.
Britain.
I won't be able to say whether I wasn't there during the trial, and I'm afraid I don't know exactly on what grounds he was convicted for.
But to speak of wider child sex abuse within football over the course of the last 20, 30 years, a lot of allegations have been brought up this week. Do you think they're spurious allegations? Do you think it's people seeking compensation for a crime that has been committed but hasn't been acknowledged? I mean, what's your perspective on it?
I think if anybody does anything wrong, they must apologise for it. End of. And I think
just
it's
apologise, just the truth?
No, but that's the basis. That's the basis of correcting a mistake or a problem or an attack on somebody. You must first acknowledge it, apologise, and then move forward. Yeah. And I think what we're doing is increased communication. We're going from a period of ignorance to a period of beginning to understand. We're beginning to find more and more, and we may be becoming observant of it.
So do we need evidence to be proffered before we take these allegations any further?
Absolutely. I think otherwise they're just stories. I think fact has to.
Is it sensationalism? Is it sensationalism from the media, or is it a slow week when it comes to news and the media's thought, well, you know what, we'll drum up bit of interest in alleged child sex abuse?
I think that's...
Because it plays well in the media.
I think we have quite a distrust of the media at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think you're asking those questions because we don't truly trust whether they've got their information properly or improperly, factually, whether they're phone tapped anybody. With this kind of, we don't trust politicians, we don't trust media, we don't trust the football with
do we trust alleged victims though?
That's I believe.
I mean they are, I guess, centre and point.
In this country, I believe people are innocent until proven guilty. I think in America it's slightly different, and with the cross, so that's
legally or in terms of
legally,
publicly. Do you not think sometimes people are strung up? I mean, you look at Cliff Richard.
Exactly, yeah, and that was a joke. That was
it was
horrific.
And in many ways, that was almost guilty until proven innocent.
And I think that's an Americanism that is a problem in the media.
Infiltrating our
Absolutely.
society.
I think it's a aggressive, and it's an almost arrogant way of.
But it's a growing phenomenon.
Absolutely. We seem to not have to wait around for an answer. If someone asks that question, if somebody says he raped that girl, well, that's enough. He's raped her. There's no evidence. There's no.
So for you, in short, where do we move from here now?
I
to the viewers watching at home, where do we move? Do we move to prosecutions? Do we wait for evidence to be produced? I mean, how do you produce evidence from individuals who are now middle-aged, elderly men when these cases of abuse were said to have happened 20, 30 years ago? I mean,
I think you have to create an environment where information is easily tracked, and as well as an environment where victims don't feel like victims. They feel like supported members.
In more straightforward language, what does that entail?
Wait for facts, and then let the facts dictate.
Okay.
I think let the facts dictate your protocol and how you attack something. I think you've got to take an individual case as it is. You can't just
a worrying story nonetheless.
Absolutely. I mean, it's scary to think that these things went on. We didn't know about them for 20 years. What else is going on right now, which we won't find out for another 20 years?
Yeah.
But I think with the increased communication,
I think it will ultimately end in prosecution. But for now, I guess we have to wait and see.
I hope the right thing happens.
The stories will develop, of course. So to round up the show this week, we're going to move on to something of a lighter issue after talking about one man's death and a string of child sex abuse scandals. So we're going to move on to the link between insomnia and insanity. After Kanye West's recent hospitalization this week, we want to ask you and Hugo in the studio whether he believes that insomnia and insanity can be linked. And if so, why they're afflicting so many high-profile personalities these days, including, of course, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I mean, Hillary Clinton was off the campaign trail for a while.
Yeah.
With
it was depression, I believe.
Was it depression? Some people say a fever. Some people say pneumonia. Could be insomnia related. But Kanye West was certainly insomnia related because his team has actually released a statement saying that it was exhaustion and a lack of sleep that caused him to be hospitalised this week. Absolutely. Donald Trump, he also says he sleeps on 3 or 4 hours, which would not go against medical advice.
I mean, firstly, when you said, well, are they linked? I think absolutely they are linked. I think they're both under the main setting of mania, which is malpractice of the kind of the brain, hyperactivity, hyperthought. Kim Kardashian said that she found it very difficult to talk to Kanye leading up to his hospitalisation, which I think almost says a bit more. Maybe pressure builds when there's no tap to relieve it. And I think a lot of pressures are put on people that they can't talk about it and they can't release that tension that's building.
Are they self-generated though? When it comes to someone like Kanye West, is he someone who is such an exuberant character that, given the demands he puts on, self-indulgence and attention?
I don't want to say self-indulgent. I don't know his lifestyle that closely. I don't know whether he's self-indulgent, but I do think that the pressures in the entertainment industry is that they feel forced to do certain things. You've got a manager, you've got a production company, you've got an agent, all telling you to do certain things to facilitate your product.
But he's certainly a man that's very, very provocative.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have to look at that from his statements, his stunts over the years.
I've seen a YouTube video of him stopping in Hyde Park last year, dropping the mic and started going on about rants about whether his wife is treated fairly, whether he's a rapper or not, whether he's a demigod or whatever.
Yeah.
I
The same
think
can be said for Donald Trump. I mean, he seems to have moderated his opinions somewhat since becoming the president-elect of the United States. But during his campaign, he made a lot of bold statements, let's say.
absolutely, which we all
regarding
talked
the
about.
wall,
Which we all talked about, and we all
banning Muslims, and obviously to, large swathes of the American population, they were received very well, and that's why we must acknowledge the fact that he is going to be American president come January 2017. But the question is this genuine insanity or is it entertainment?
The second one. I think with this populist movement that we're all feeling at the moment, especially with the most recent elections with Trump, and the power of the common man's communication, Twitter, Facebook, I think that creates a kind of sensationalist movement and a hunger for immediacy, a hunger for immediate information, immediate givings out, and I think that only links Trump, Kanye West.
Yeah.
News stories are happening over weekends rather than weeks or months. A couple of about 10, 20 years ago.
Do you think it's the advent of the 24-hour news cycle?
Absolutely.
And social media and
that constant, give me something else, means that we're creating, as a product from the society, we are creating people that are higher up that are just...
Do we encourage this with our celebrities? I mean, to draw it back to, the link is, of course, Insomnia and Insanity for our viewers at home. Does insomnia, lack of sleep, does that bring on insanity?
I'm going completely mad if
Does that cultivate, insanity? Do you think the fact that Donald Trump says he sleeps 3 or 4 hours a week, Theresa May says she sleeps like 4, Kanye West apparently wasn't sleeping at all. I mean,
all I know is I work a lot better if I've had a good night rest.
There we have it there. Sometimes you just have to keep it simple, don't you?
Absolutely. If I'm having a bad day, get to bed, you wake up, it's a new day.
Maybe the people of 2016 needed more sleep. That's why it's been such an insane year.
So what, are you saying that David Bowie would have survived if he'd just gone to bed an hour early?
Possibly. What do you
Hopefully.
think?
I pray.
Everyone said it went down from there. My opinion, it only went up, but...
Oh, that's a controversial view.
Maybe a story for another week.
Absolutely.
The spotlight on insanity this week seems rather appropriate, given that it's been a year of insane proportions. From Harambe to Brexit, and now Trump. It just seems like a year that's full of surprises. But here at Up for Discussion, we're always ready for the surprises, so stay tuned over the course of the next few weeks as we bring you the latest news that affects our world. Thanks for watching.